Hey guys, this is Matt Miller with PolitiBrawl. Watch Michael Knowles completely stump this LGBTQ priest who says that the question, when life begins and what is life, is beyond the pay grade of human beings, and therefore we shouldn't have opinions about this. We shouldn't draw clear lines or moral standards based on that question. This was a very good debate. Check it out right here.
I think the big difference here, and I agree on so many of these issues, I think the difference between kind of the progressive theological community and the conservative/Orthodox Christian community is your side calls things black and white that I don't think we can know in humility as human beings with limited capacities. There are things we can't know to be absolutely true black and white. And I do think when does life begin is a question that we have been debating in Christianity since the beginning. I reject the notion that you began this segment with, that this has been somehow the consensus for 2,000 years. There has been a diversity of opinion for 2,000 years. And so, of course,
diversity of opinion among people. I made the I suppose, more modest claim, though I don't know if it's really all that modest in the end, that the Catholic Church, at the very least, has been consistent. And you raised the good point of, well, what about Thomas Aquinas? You know, he's the greatest doctor of the church. And he says that, babies aren't really like babies until a little while after. But then I pointed out, well, Thomas Aquinas simply thought that conception occurred later than we would now say, even a secular person would now say conception occurs. So all I'm saying is the Catholics have been consistent, at least since the Didache, and certain other flavors of Christianity have not been.
Yeah.
But all flavors of Christianity read the Bible and see John the Baptist dancing in the womb at the visitation. How?
Yeah.
What you wouldn't encourage Elizabeth to kill John the Baptist?
Elizabeth's health wasn't on the line, as far as I know, and that was not a conception that came out of abuse or anything like that. But
if it had been, would you encourage the murder of the prophet who is to make straight the ways of the Lord?
Well, I don't think it's a murder to have an abortion on a potential
life. Would you encourage the termination of the pregnancy to end the even possibility of the life of the prophet?
Probably not for John the Baptist, because in God's will and God's plan, that was what needed to take place. But the point I wanted to make was that on your side, things do seem more black and white. You all take these very hard positions, which I actually do think, and I mean this with a lot of respect, is an exercise in hubris, because it's humans declaring certainty on things that we cannot have certainty on. Whereas on my side, I'm willing to say, I think abortion is a very tricky ethical issue. And I don't think we should be drawing firm black and white lines on this.
If a little orphan shows up to your door and is very hungry and asks for food, do you think that the person whose door he shows up to should feed that little orphan?
Generally, yeah.
Every time, or are there exceptions? Assuming he has enough food.
In the hypothetical, there are so many things that could be happening there, but yes, we'll say yes.
Yes, every time. So you're drawing a clear black and white distinction in all of your hubris, in all of your pride and sanctimony. You're telling me that I need to feed that little hungry orphan every time he shows up to my door. Where do you get off with this moral sanctimony?
That's not what I said. I said there are certain issues that clearly are above the pay grade of human beings, and this is one of them.
So this priest or this pastor is failing at the very thing religion exists to do, which is to provide moral guidance on tough questions like this. The questions that have baffled human beings since ancient times. Things that religion should be there to be able to answer for us, which is, what is life? What is the purpose of life? When does it begin? Certainly falls into that category. And I think that this pastor is failing. He's trying to sidestep this issue, this question, that he should be able to at least explore and try to find and deduce the moral correct answer for, right? I mean, they're having a religious debate here. And in the context of religion, God has given us rules to live by, the 10 Commandments, further the teachings of Christ in the New Testament. And there are clear black and white answers to these things, right? So is it wrong to murder? Yes, God says it. Now, I think there's other ways, more secular ways to prove that it is morally wrong to murder people, but let's keep it in the context of a religious debate. So if you can identify that murder is occurring when you have an abortion, then it's very clear, it's very black and white and absolute that it's wrong. Now, most pro-life people in that camp, agree that when the life of the mother is at risk, or maybe other circumstances, other exceptions, abortion could be considered and still be moral. But we know that that's not the majority of abortions. Most abortions are elective, and they are sought out of convenience, not necessarily necessity to preserve the life of the mother. So I think that Michael Knowles' example about the orphan is fantastic, because it proves that, yes, there are situations where you can draw a moral hard line and say, this is the right thing to do, this is the wrong thing to do. Now, we see the left, they're trying to cloud these lines. That's one of the main differences between the left and the right, is that the right tends to believe in moral standards, right and wrong. We have a strong sense of that, and that's kind of where our entire worldview stems from. The left, it's almost like death by tolerance. They're tolerant of everything, and that's their downfall. So, like I said, the mission or the duty of a religious leader, somebody like a priest or a pastor, is to be able to address these questions and provide an intelligent answer based on scripture, based on religious precedent. And this guy is just trying to say, no, that's above our pay grade, we can't do it. I think that it's very shameful that he drew this conclusion and is not even going to bother to try to give us a better, more well-crafted answer here. You see, moral relativism is a marker of the left and left-wing thought. And I think that they're trying to be permissive and make allowances for all these things that we know deep down what is the right answer, right? That's why so many on the pro-choice side, they don't want to even admit that murder is happening. They want to argue that fact, whereas it's clear that in most cases, that the termination of a pregnancy via abortion, going to Planned Parenthood, would fall into that category by definition. The Catholic Church has been very consistent on this, like Knowles says here, and maybe other religious denominations aren't, or maybe they're trying to walk back some of those claims, some of those clear lines, God forbid, that are drawn based on the Judeo-Christian ethic. But I think it's something that you cannot sidestep. You can't sidestep in good faith, and this guy, he needs to do better than just say, we can't answer it. It's beyond our pay grade. We don't really know the answer. We do scientifically too, from a secular, non-religious standpoint. We know that when the sperm meets the egg, that is where the conditions for life exist, and that is where life begins. So anything beyond that point is clearly the termination of a human life. We've seen the trivialization of abortion, largely by the left wing, lead to millions of abortions that occur every year. This is some of the worst atrocities that humankind has ever perpetuated. We need to at least agree that the moral weight of having an abortion does exist, that it's there. We need to acknowledge it, that this is a big deal. This is a very grave and serious thing that's happening, and it shouldn't be done flippantly or electively out of convenience. It should be done for a much better reason than that, if at all. Anyway, I want to hear what you guys think. Do you think that Michael Knowles is right? Do you like his example there? I think that it's a very good example that illustrates there are situations, or that most situations you can deduce the moral rightness or wrongness of, and abortion is no exception to that. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. If you like the video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Ring the notification bell so you guys get notified when we post new videos to PolitiBrawl. Also, if you haven't checked out our Substack yet at PolitiBrawl.substack.com, go check that out. That's the home base of this entire media company that we're building. We would also appreciate it if you guys felt like you wanted to support us and become a paid subscriber. If you go to the Substack, you'll see where you can support us in that way, and we appreciate that immensely. Thank you again for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time.